So we're going to get started. So we have a really insightful session planned for you this evening with Ian Kiner and Rita Kelly of Contiki, which is a global leader in travel specifically for Gen Y and Gen Z. So this is going to be a session where Ian and Rita are going to walk us through why this is such an important travel segment now more than ever to target and to engage with. I'm so excited to tune in, as I'm sure all of you are too. My name is Christina Kuntz, and I'm going to be moderating the session today. We're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So chat with me in the chat box, use our Q&A box, and also our polls. We're going to be asking quite a few polls throughout their presentation. So a lot of fun ahead. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome Ian and Rita to your screens.
Awesome. Christina, thank you so very much. We're excited to be presenting this great topic. We're really looking forward to it. And we do hope you all have a lot of questions for us. We'll take you through a lot of information, and we're hoping that we can speak or spark some interest and inspire you in targeting this great population of travelers. So to start things off, we're going to do our first poll question, and Christina is going to help us out on this. So as I segue into doing a little bit more of an introduction for Rita and I, our first poll question, which should come up here for you momentarily, is going to be just your current book of business. How much of it do Gen Y and Gen Z travelers currently make up? So while that poll is getting ready to display for you, I'll move on and give a little bit of an introduction for myself and for Rita. So we're both honored to be here presenting with you today. I'm very excited to be able to present with Rita. Both of us, between the two of us, we have a lot of decades in travel, certainly in marketing, and all really focused on just giving those experiences to young travelers and travelers alike. Really fun on this one that I'll pause on our fun facts. Rita and I came up with these completely separately of each other, but they both turned out to be very, very pet themed. And I found it very interesting that as a young child, my first pet, my family actually looked after a full-bred gray wolf named Nina. And on the exact polar opposite, Rita's never ever owned a pet. So depending on how things go, you know, maybe a Christmas present, we can send Rita a pet rock. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Christina, how has that poll gone?
Okay, so currently Gen Y and Gen Z travelers make up how much of my business? We got 14.3% said most of it, 57.1% said some of it, and then we got 28.6% who said little to none of it. So that's where we are currently.
Excellent. Well, hopefully as we go through this, we'll help all of you that have some or none to be able to reach into that market. So what to expect? What are we going to kind of go through? We're going to talk a little bit about Gen Y and Gen Z. Gen Y, of course, being millennials, Gen Z being one of the newest or the youngest generations. We'll talk really specifically about some of our target cohorts and why we are focusing in on them and are sharing that information with you. We're going to take you then through kind of a journey of what we knew, what we learned, trends, not only about what we see in the marketplace and focusing on this specific customer base, but what we've done and how we're adapting to the challenges that 2020 has brought us. So it's now time, if everybody's ready, we're going to rethink and we're going to reconnect to travel for Gen Y and Gen Z. As we're going through, please be sure you're putting your questions in Q&A. We'll be delighted to answer all of those at the end. So we need to start with what is Gen Z, who's a millennial? Now, many of you probably have experience with this group, you know the terms, but if you don't, we could spend an hour going through all of the details on just the demographics alone. So we're going to skip that, but just some basics, just so we have a framework and we're all on the same page. Our Gen Z and our millennials encompass a wide range, everyone from about age 8 all the way to 40-ish. We're talking about half of the US population is a millennial, Gen Z, and even a little bit younger. And combined, Gen Z and millennials have in the ballpark of about $3 trillion in buying power. It is a big demographic. It is a big segment. It is too much to try to pursue, too much to focus on, too much to go after. So what we're going to share is the segments and the cohorts that are not only interested in travel, but are purchasing travel. So let's start to get into that a little bit. Just a quick little summary of Contiki. So Contiki, we've been specializing in travel for younger travelers 18 to 35 since 1962. For about 60 years, we've been adapting, flexing our styles, how we travel, how we engage our consumers, because with each decade, with each year, our customers change, and we've always got to be adapting to them. We know now in the information age that those changes in how our audience purchases, how they consume, what they want to experience changes faster than ever before. So we need to be on top of all that. We also know, even with our understanding of millennials, that we anticipate about 40% of our consumers next year to be Gen Z. That's a lot. We really need to understand who we're targeting, what the nuances are of how to message them, and what they're looking for from a product standpoint. Wanting ourselves to really dive into this and be able to focus, we identified 3 key cohorts. Now, to get there, we began a intense research project. We got a partner that we were able to dive in to research and analytics and really understand of that core population of Gen Z and millennials 18 to 35. Who should we be focusing on? Who is looking to travel? Who is booking travel? And who can we engage as a prospective customer? And the 3 cohorts that we identified are knowledge-seeking explorers, young achievers, and time-starved adventurers. And we're going to dive into what that means and who you can be looking at to target when you are going after that millennial or Gen Z customer. So first and foremost, the cohort opportunity. So I had mentioned that there's about 166 million Gen Z and millennials in the US alone. That's a lot to target. That's a lot to go and try to find and bring into your business. When we narrow that down into our 3 cohorts, we start to see some very manageable and exciting populations of people. So when we ask the question, who's looking to travel in the next 18 months? We identified about 4.8 million people, just shy of 5 million people, that are prospective customers that we can target, that we should target, because they are ready and looking to travel. Even travel within the next 6 months, 1.3 million. And although 2020 has thrown us some curveballs, a lot of this is still ringing true. Our segments, the younger segment of travelers, those 18 to 30-year-olds, are still eager to get out and are still eager to explore. And you can see from here, those populations are gigantic. So who are they? Okay, so we'll start with our knowledge-seeking explorers. So just to remind you, so knowledge-seeking explorers makes up about 300,000 individuals who are looking to travel in the next 6 months. This is the oldest of our 3 cohorts. They typically age mostly between 27 to 30 years old, predominantly single, and employed full-time. So who are they? Who specifically? What's an example? Their key characteristics: they are likely single, looking to travel solo. Potentially they've traveled before, so they're very comfortable being independent, but they want to get to know other people and experience other cultures. They've lived some of their life up to this point, so they're highly curious. They want those unique experiences. They really want to get into the culture and traditions of other places. And they're looking to disconnect from their day-to-day. Now, this population has been in the workforce for a few years. They've certainly entered into their first career. Maybe they've jumped careers or jumped jobs a couple of times, and they're really looking to disconnect and just really immerse themselves in the place that they're visiting. From a standpoint of where they are, this is a population that is very active in their community, special interest groups, maybe those under 30 clubs or singles clubs in your city. And on social media, they tend to gravitate most frequently to Instagram. So how about our next cohort, our young achievers? This is our youngest cohort, our young achievers. They tend to be aged between 18 and 22. which means they're going to predominantly be students or recent students, right? This population, to come back to our size of opportunities, about 400,000 individuals looking to travel in the next 6 months. Because they're mostly students, they're predominantly single, and you see there that while there are some that are employed full-time, the majority certainly do identify as students. Our young achiever, right? Our young achiever, again, student, maybe a recent graduate, typically between 18 and 22 years old. They are all about coming into adulthood, building confidence, finding new things, discovering themselves along the way. Within their community, which may be just a college campus, they are very actively involved, thinking in athletics or in Greek life. This cohort, more than any other, is very, very connected to their friends and family. They're happiest when they're with others, which for this cohort makes them exceptional when you're looking at groups and considering group travel, whether it be custom group, bespoke group, affinity group travel. This cohort is going to really fall into that because whether it be a sorority traveling together, potentially a social club that they're involved in, or just a group of friends that all want to travel together, that closeness to their family and friends is very important to them. As I mentioned, this is predominantly a group of students, so you're going to find them on campus. On social media, they're going to be involved in Instagram and active on Snap and TikTok, all things that we'll talk about even a little bit more as we go on. And our last cohort, our time-starved adventurers. So they fit right in between. These are definitely our young professionals. If the first cohort, if our knowledge-seeking explorers are kind of coming out of, maybe they're at the tail end of being a young professional, this group is solidly young professional. They are definitely kind of out of those school years, unless they're pursuing advanced education. They're probably into their first job. You see their age range about 23 to 26. They are predominantly single, but this group, interestingly enough, may have a partner that they are living with or that they would be looking to travel with. And the majority of them are employed, likely for the first time. They're started in their first job in their first career. So let's take a look at the time-starved adventurer and the key characteristics of them. So you got that go-getter mentality, right? They're active, they're on the go, they're constantly looking for that next opportunity. They've just entered into the workforce and they're really getting out there. They want situations that are going to push their boundaries. They're a little bit more comfortable in who they are, becoming a little bit more comfortable now. They want to be put in situations that they haven't been in before. This group is very keen on meeting new people. Expanding their network is hugely important, as is convenience. They are short on time, this group, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. You're going to find them at work, right? These are their first careers. They're putting in the time. They're going to be doing professional networking. And on social media, this group is going to likely be on Instagram and Facebook. Now that we know who our cohorts are, and we've kind of seen some key characteristics of them, let's look at how they travel and some of how we can message them. So consistently across our knowledge-seeking explorers and our young achievers and our time-starved adventurers, they are all equally interested in those immersive experiences. They want to learn, they want to engage, and they want to meet new people, whether it be people they're traveling with or people in destination. What I'll focus in on really quickly is a very distinct difference between young achievers and time-starved adventurers, those two being the largest of the populations that are ready to travel. So young achievers and time-starved adventurers, there is a slight consistency that they're both looking for an expertise. They're both looking for a convenience. And for the young achievers, that convenience is solidly on the expertise of knowledge, the destination. They want to have these experiences, but likely they've never traveled before. So they're looking for somebody that they can be confident in, that's going to guide them to what they need and want to do, that's going to help them have the experiences they want, but without them having to search and figure it out for themselves, because they may not have that confidence to do so. For the time-starved adventurers, they're a little bit more comfortable with their knowledge, but now they need a convenience. They need a convenience opportunity of time. They need help, they need support, they need convenience. Because while they may have some expertise, maybe even traveled before, What they don't have is a lot of time. They're working that first job. They're trying to figure out, the commute and this, and they're busy. They don't have a lot of vacation. And what they want to do with it, they want to maximize. And even though they want to get out there and travel, they don't have a lot of time to plan. So they're really looking for that convenience of support and getting it done for them. Across the board, one thing on here that I really want to call attention to, because value is going to be a recurring theme, is that the cost of things and what they're looking for and those money matters, they're willing to compromise on some things, especially things like accommodations, because their focus is on the experience, not necessarily where they stay. So let's talk about the benefits to lead with. So when we're talking to these three cohorts, it really is about those immersive experiences. You go to Venice, of course you want to ride in a gondola, but it's not about just getting in a gondola. It's about the opportunity to learn how to pilot one yourself. Or in Paris, when we're talking about local guides and local experts that can not only provide the cultural history and the rich heritage of the place that you're visiting, but also guide you to something unique and special for you. For example, in Paris, maybe after a day's walking tour or a time at the Eiffel Tower, the thing you most want to do is go to Père Lachaise Cemetery and go and pay your respects to Jim Morrison. I know that's something I wanted to do. And you want to have that local guide or that local expert that can share with you that history, how to find that cemetery and how to go maximize that experience. And then traveling with an international group, this is key, and I have so many stories I could share. In fact, one personally, whoops. Oh, the presentation went a little crazy and wacky there. Good. Everybody awake? Good. That was just a check, make sure. So many stories on traveling with a group and what that means and the camaraderie that comes from it, from experiencing from somebody else's eyes. When you're traveling with a group and you have travelers from Brazil who have never in their life experienced snow, and you're in the Austrian Alps and they're experiencing snow for the very first time, and you're sharing that experience with them. You bond and connect with these fellow travelers in ways that is almost indescribable. They also support and come together as a group. And if we have time in the Q&A, I'll happily share a story, a personal story of how much I valued the group I was traveling with that ultimately ended up with me upside down over the Austrian Alps. But that's a story, assuming we have time. Once we've messaged them, we really need to talk to these cohorts and share with them what's going to motivate them to book. And it's about variety. What can they do? Their experiences may not want to do the exact same thing day after day. So is there a variety of experiences? And what are those experiences? Are they going to do just a plain old walking tour around Berlin, or will they get an opportunity to do a walking tour from the eyes of a refugee who has now essentially been rescued into Germany and is sharing their experiences and the connections to the home that they fled, to their new home, and how all of those histories are intertwined. It's about flexibility of purchase, especially now in the times we're living in. It's knowing there's flexibility when you purchase, that you have flexibility to change, that you can rebook for another date if something doesn't work out. It's flexibility on trip, like I mentioned in Paris, maybe going to the Père Lachaise Cemetery. Instead of going and seeing the Eiffel Tower or the Champs-Élysées, maybe that's what you want to spend that day doing. Maybe you want to jump off a mountain in the Alps. Maybe you just want to sit and read a book. Streamlined and stress-free, this is where we all play a part in that. And that's supporting our travelers and making things as seamless and easy as possible before purchase and when they're on their trip. We want them to have the experiences, not the hassle and the stress of figuring out the next step or how to get from point A to point B. Value is critical as well, and I'm going to stress value because it's not about the price. We're not bargain hunting. Our cohorts are not looking for the cheapest price, but they are looking for that value. Are they getting what they want? Are they going to have that enriching, life-changing experience that they're looking for? And last but not least, and certainly, arguably one of the most important, is the ability and the opportunity to show respect for the places they're visiting, either being directly involved in community or wildlife activities that are supporting conservation, that are supporting the people. It is really about the people, the wildlife, and the places that we're visiting. And just by way of an example, you need to get them ultimately on the right trip. So just to break this down, for our knowledge-seeking explorers, for young achievers and time-starved adventurers, our knowledge-seeking explorers, really keen on a small group, right? Contiki cares experiences, so doing those activities that are really giving back to the community. And very off the beaten path, this is off the beaten path. This is where India, and completely off the grid trip in New Zealand. It's really going to call out to those knowledge-seeking explorers. For your young achievers, multi-country, let's see a lot, let's do a lot. Those iconic destinations, again, this might be the first time they're traveling, and certainly those unique experiences, like learning how to pilot a gondola in Venice. And your time-starved adventurers, immersive trips. They're short on time, so they've got to be under 2 weeks, but they really want to dive into a place and they really want to have those local experiences, like Portugal, and spending time learning how to surf and learning how to make and appreciate the local cuisine, or spending time in South Africa on safari and really diving into the destination. All right, before we move on to really getting into the journey and learning about the messaging and how we approach it, I'm going to be very pleased to hand off to Rita. But before we get there, we're going to have one more poll question right now, which is, we've shared 3 cohorts to target, and it's potentially a lot to remember. But in the very simplest of terms, those 3 cohorts occupy very simple segments of the population. And we want to put this poll question out to you to see if you recall what they are. I will now, well, I should say I'm very honored to now welcome back in Rita to the conversation, where we will jump into the ongoing and continuation of our topics. I'll let Rita, or I'll let Christina kind of share the answers of that poll, and then Rita, it's all off to you.
Let me see if I've gotten, so far, answer to the poll is, and I think they've gotten it right. If I've been listening correctly, students, recent grads, and young professionals. In the simplest terms, that's what the 3 cohorts to target. Are we right?
Perfect.
Yes. Good job.
Great job,
guys.
everybody.
All right, Rita.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you, Christina. We'll have a couple more poll questions to ask along the way. I'm honored to be here today, and as Ian has taken you guys through the various cohorts, I did want to just say thank you to him. Really great data and information that I'm hoping will help you guys along the way as you are targeting these very important demographics. For almost 60 years, Contiki has been the global leader in travel exclusively for 18 to 35-year-olds. So during those years, we've had to rethink and adapt our messaging and product to the generational demands of these young travelers. But before we look ahead to 2021 and the future of travel, we must look back to 2019, before this global pandemic, to see what trends were underway and how in 2020 these trends moved a lot quicker for us, with 2 important demographics of travelers, the Gen Y and the Gen Z. So looking back to 2019 as a brand, Contiki discussed big issues, and most wondered how these issues were even relevant to us as a brand. Particularly heightened through our demographic and audience is that they have been super hyper aware of social and political movements like you see here. And it's been very top of mind, how do we as a brand participate in these movements? We agreed to approach it sensitively. And as we talk with our audience, let them know that we're aware of it and we don't shy from it. We have a blog platform called 62, and our strategy on that platform is really to tell our narrative. It's not an e-commerce site like our Contiki.com site. We don't sell our trips on it, and instead we highlight these types of articles and content that are relevant to these generations, and that's where we publish them. In 2019, we also covered off new and emerging platforms that we needed to keep an eye on. Now, TikTok is one of our most important social channels we play on. And especially since lockdown, we noticed how quickly we needed to be on that forefront and have strategies on these particular channels. I'm actually going to kick off one of the poll questions as well here and ask Christina to moderate that one for us. But my organization is the most active on, and fill in that question, please.
Got it. It's live now. So if everyone can check the polls, let me know. Give them a few. So far, we've got 100% for Facebook, 75. Okay, give me a second. It's gotten a little active. All right, so right now we got about 62% for Facebook, 22% for Instagram, and a 10-7 for Twitter. It's a little different. Yeah, it's a little mixed. Facebook looks like it's still leading the charge though, and shortly after Instagram. Let me check to our chat. People are saying Pinterest. That's a question that we're going to ask you a little bit towards the end of the Q&A, because we've gotten some questions about Pinterest. Is that kind of a lost social media tool? So continue, please.
Okay, no problem. And we'll definitely touch on Pinterest later on, maybe in the Q&A, because we do have some strategies regarding that as well. So that's great to see that other channels, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, those are all great channels to be on as an organization, and we definitely support those. It is these emerging platforms that we had to get really quickly evolving with, especially for Gen Z and Gen Y. So in 2019, we also started to unpick the workings of a new generation of traveler. This is that Gen Z. They are digital natives born in a post-internet world, and where technology and social media are a given for them. They're woke. They have grown up with terrorism, mass shootings, political injustice, and notice that climate change is not just a threat, but a reality. And finally, they're constantly shifting. They are children and teenagers and still very difficult to define. Therefore, we need to look at the difference between Gen Z and millennials, as their engagement with brands is also different. So we mentioned our 6.2 blog articles, and those are about building brand awareness. So those are great for Gen Z audience. Our past passengers and our Facebook audience is more millennial skewed. Snapchat is another one that didn't come up, but that is also skewing younger. TikTok is more wide-reaching and has shifted to be also millennial after COVID, where before it had skewed more Gen Z. So these platforms tend to change, and those who are on it also tend to change depending on the content that's being posted and which generation is on it. So in 2019, we also discussed the evolution of a new type of traveler, and therefore we had to shift our core product to reflect what the Contiki of tomorrow was after when traveling. This meant that our trip experiences needed to be a bit more sustainable, possibly have some vegan trips, and we needed to follow new trends where photography, culinary, and other interests were factored in when building our itineraries and crafting our trips. We have this philosophical conversation internally always, as we don't want to alienate or upset some customers who really want an experience of yesterday, which is to drink, which is to shag. But as a brand, we needed to stand for what we believe in and decide, where do we fit into the traveler's needs of tomorrow, where it is a bit more educational, travel kind of changing you. So finally, in 2020 this year, all trends were amplified and actually became a reality. But before we get into what's to come, let's take a quick look at what our community of travelers have been up to these last 6 months. What we were building for happened a lot quicker than we thought. Topics of social injustice dominated, and brands had to take a stance. TikTok and other emerging platforms became the social media platform for young people to survive isolation. Gen Z and millennials became quite possibly the most affected generation during the global pandemic. And COVID's upheaval of the travel industry is set to expedite new emerging travel trends for the next generation of travelers. So young people learned what truly matters to them, and that is that they value real world connection. So how do you actually stay relevant when your core offering is the very thing people around the world have to go without? And this is what happened when the world shut down and we as a brand had to keep inspiring. I'm going to play a video and I do hope that it actually plays because it's quite telling of what happened.
2020, the year you'll remember forever.
Oh gosh.
Well, we weren't wrong. But though we've all been through a lot this year, we learned a lot too. We learned to check in, keep connected, and stay reflective. We learned new skills together and even went to the movies, thousands of miles apart. We hosted virtual tours, amplified the voices that matter, and found some incredible humans along the way. We dreamt about what's waiting on the horizon. So we renovated our 16th century chateau, launched holidaying at home, and never, ever stopped creating. From podcasts with partners to hangouts with trip managers.
I love a day spent in Amsterdam, just finding a cute little cafe at the edge of the canal.
One of the places I miss the most at the moment is Ireland.
We reached out beyond our four walls to our inspirational community across the world, and they reached right back. So though we miss the bright lights of Paris or the colourful mountains of Peru, this year's reminded us that Contiki has never just been about dreamy destinations. We're about stories, memories, creativity, friendships. We're about a community of explorers that transcends borders. And without them, we'd just be another travel company. That's why we can't wait to travel together again and get back to what we've done best since 1962. So, let's make next year count. Let's make it one to remember for the right reasons. 2020.
So it's clear our audience is reminiscing, but they're also craving connection with their Contiki family, looking for inspiration around their next adventure and remembering the good times. So this is the pivot. Our engagement across social peaked, and in terms of how the community came together with the love, compassion, engagement with our trip managers and others who couldn't travel were next to none. We had 220 stories every week. The share buttons were used more than ever. We saw a 10% increase across Contiki themed Facebook groups, and we had the highest engagement on our blog. So this tells us that Contiki isn't just about dreamy destinations and adventure in faraway lands. It's not about showing the icons, not about the experiences. It's more about bringing people together. We are about bringing people together through shared, life-changing experiences before their trip, while they're traveling, and long, long after they have returned. We have a community that transcends borders, that is passionate about travel. This is what we are building off of after COVID and what we have tapped into. And most importantly, we have a community who is ready and willing to get going again and make 2021 count. Here are just a few examples of actual posts you can see that the planning is happening. The community is more engaged than ever, and people were planning for trips, leaning on each other, how much they missed friends, travel, and we weren't a part of the conversation. They were. Has anyone done the Greek island hopping? Planning on going June 2021? What did you think of your trip? Was it enough time to enjoy Greece? Asking each other. It's quite interesting, and it's great to see that engagement happening. So now I want to shift a bit into 2021 youth consumer trends, 5 to be exact. We've got activism 2.0, travel that teaches you, making up for lost time, digital life, and together alone. Not just from a communications or marketing perspective, but also from a product perspective. We really needed to understand these 5 trends if we wanted to provide an offering that attracted millennials and Gen Z. So given all that has happened in the world, there is a widespread desire and readiness to make a difference by the youth generation. 83% of our demographic said they would boycott a brand if they didn't agree with their values. 76% said they expect brands to take a stance on social and political issues. And 86% said, yes, they would spend more on a product if it came from a sustainable brand. This is a pretty strong quote from a 19-year-old from Boston that most youth generation would also nod their heads to. For those of us who are lucky enough to come out of this mess on the other side, we need to use this experience as a chance to reset. I am eager for the chance to start living again and living with purpose. When we get out there, we need to do things in a conscious manner, including the products we offer. We believe that traveling sustainably and consciously matters. Contiki Cares is our commitment to protecting the communities we visit, the wildlife we interact with, and the planet we all share. We have a range of included sustainable travel experiences built into our trips across the world. With us, our travelers can be safe in the knowledge that their travels are positively impacting the places we visit. The second trend is about how travel teaches you. The younger generation travels for skills and self-confidence. You change because of these eye-opening experiences and people wanting to develop skills and build on this content. After missing out on a whole year of travel, the future generation is focusing on how they get that time back through personal growth and acquiring new skills. Definitely goes back into the cohorts that Ian was referring back to you guys and identifying that they are eager to acquire these new skills. So with this trend, we expect to see peaked interest in skills-based travel, and we are fulfilling this need from a product delivery. We've created theme-based trips where travelers can get personal growth. Travelers will come back with personal experience that has changed them, and travel will have made them a better person. We also have upcoming partnerships with IGLTA and local tourism boards to ask for their support for our Pride trips, which will be running in July and August of 2021. The third trend is making up for lost time. The younger generation has been the most impacted from future planning. They've missed out on physical graduations, been unable to physically attend colleges, forced to do virtual learning. They've been cut from jobs. Internship plans are not coming out of fruition, and they've been forced to quarantine, so have been back to living with family. With many companies allowing employees to work remote, we expect to see travelers not coming back right away from their trips and actually staying abroad to work remote. So we may repackage existing product to allow them to do just that through some of the partnerships that we have. The fourth trend is digital life. Gaming has risen 75% in the USA alone with the younger demographic. They are turning to these platforms to escape every day. Platforms like Twitch, and one that I've mentioned frequently, TikTok, are needed for fun, to pass time with silly dances, crazy music. One of the interesting insights from digital life is that one still needed to have a connection. Nothing is more important to them than friendships and human connections. So what do we expect to see from this trend in 2021? Focuses on getting our message direct to consumer through digital channels, new emerging platforms that will shift focus from the more traditional ones, more emphasis on in-platform engagement and participation across our social channels, and then shorter journeys to the e-commerce site. Focus on ensuring Contiki.com is built for youth e-com trends and the continuation of testing. And then shift in digital spend as we continue to evolve and test across new platforms to trial new initiatives. Our fifth and final trend is together alone. Why are we seeing engagement rates become so high on our channels while no one is booking at the time? Well, because people are craving connectivity and wanting to feel a part of a community. Human connection and intimacy may forever be changed by this pandemic. Consider how you can facilitate a brave, empathetic world and deeper connections when this is over. Consider our role in bringing people back together. We are going to spend more time on this trend as it sets up some key messaging and brand focuses for us as a brand. Before we do, I do have a poll question. Christina is going to help us with this one. If you can answer, I believe that 18 to 35-ish travelers will be some of the first to travel consistently once again. True or false?
We got that live now, so just wait to get our results. All right, so far we're at true 100%. Haven't seen anything come in for false. So a lot of people do think that this segment's going to be the first to get out there. We got,
They are
6% false. So I think a lot are still thinking it's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is your resilient generation, right? So they know their beliefs, they know what they're after, they want that connectivity, and they believe that travel is going to get them there. So the minute that they can get out there, they're going to do it. So we need to just make sure that the messaging is appropriate for them when they are there. So a few powerful questions and quotes from our youth generation. I will read a couple of these. So I usually am the type of person to be alone for long periods of time, but this pandemic has been stretching my limits. I need to connect with people. Will we still take for granted a hug with a friend, large social gatherings like a birthday party or a baby shower? And finally, after this whole pandemic is over, I'm never holding back from getting closer to people or allowing myself to be vulnerable. I need to connect ASAP. It's interesting, we actually posted this here, which is, I'm going on a Contiki trip next year. I don't care if I have to go alone. I'm not putting happiness on hold because of my friends' excuses. Sorry. This actually went gangbusters with about 5,000 plus likes and comments within 5 days on our Instagram channel. The comments were incredible to read, and I'll highlight just a few where you'll see, the room was basically telling them, I'll be your friend, go on the trip. It was the best thing I ever did. I'd rather, go alone. It's fine. It's fun. I'll see you there. I went alone. I made so many friends around the world. And people were just commenting on all of these, this one response that we had just posted. And it was so sweet. And the best one that I thought was, go alone, Contiki is your family now. And we have Facebook groups of reunions of people who have gone on a Contiki, who have 12 years later gone on another Contiki together, that same group from all around the world. So it's incredible stories. And we've been actively social listening, and this is what happened in the last 12 months. People were missing friends. There were flashbacks, throwbacks, all of these, big, large word clouds that you guys see here. And I won't go through each one of these, but I did want to share just a few, where you've got these people commenting on the actual trips that they've done, and, just really, really positive experience. And so what does this tell us? These statements and comments validated the magic of Contiki, and it's the connections you're making while you're on the road, when you're traveling with other young, like-minded travelers. The experiences they have are amazing, but it's the people they share them with that create memories that last a lifetime. So the most important part of our trips is that we actually connect people. This transcends geography. Becoming a global citizen is something our audience craves, and especially for this with friends from all over the world. It's a sense of community that they belong to. If we looked at the consumer insight, more so Gen Z than millennials, they're craving community more than ever. If we look at our brand insight, the why we exist, it's the Contiki magic that I just described. So how much this pandemic has had an effect on young people is also what is bringing people together. What you will never be able to get with anyone else is that connection with others around the world. And these two things create travel together. So in closing, this tells us that Contiki isn't just about dreamy destinations and adventure in faraway lands. It's not about showing the icons, it's not about the experiences, it's more about bringing people together. And that's what we will continue to do in 2021 and beyond, as we rethink the future of travel together. So one last poll question before we kick off the Q&A, and that is, what travel destination do you think will be the most popular in 2021 and 2022?
Awesome. Let's wait for them to answer that. Such a great presentation. So insightful. Just this kind of connection focused generation of travel. So insightful. Thank you for that. All right, so
I
far
don't know
we've
I
got
don't know about everybody else, but Rita, I'm ready to go. Where are we going?
we're all in it. All right, I got a little bit of a differences here, so I'm going to give it a few more because it's kind of jumping the board in our poll about which travel destinations do you think is going to be the most popular. So right now we've got a little bit of a split between Mexico and Caribbean, 33%, and domestic US at 26%, followed by Europe at 13%, and then we got an other 25%. Let me check our chat box. People are saying Africa, wide open spaces, parks. Yeah, we got a lot of people talking about Africa in there too as well. So very interesting. Let me go back. Yeah, right now really split between domestic US and Mexico and Caribbean, which seems interesting. And Africa, safaris. Yeah.
I like that Africa one.
Yeah.
We have been noticing quite a bit of a lift in regards to Africa. We've been looking at like search trends on Google, and Africa is one that is definitely trending. National parks is a big one from a domestic perspective. And, you know, Italy and Ireland always top. So
Right.
glad to see that there's a consistency there as well. So it's great. Thank you.
Of course. Can I open it up to questions? I have quite a few, so I want to make sure I have you guys. Are you guys ready for questions?
We're ready.
Perfect. So someone had said that they are seeing a trend that these groups of travelers are reaching out to travel agents now, which is great versus just booking online. Are you guys seeing the same trend develop?
I'm gonna mute. Oh.
No, you're
Yes,
good.
I was going to say, oh, Ian looks like he's having
No,
issues.
you're good.
Okay. Yes, we do see this generation actually going to travel agents. It's that trust factor and that credibility, right? So they definitely go to travel agents. They also may book direct. They just want to travel, right? So depending on what's the best avenue for them, they do go with our travel agent partners. And we do work really closely with our travel agent partners. We provide a lot of content, a lot of assets that helps inspire the Contiki audience to want to go and travel. So what we do is we amplify all of that and give that to our travel agent partners, and then they do the work where they do such an incredible job and actually are the expert explaining to them what is the best trip once they know what they're looking for. So there's definitely a gear towards travel agency partners where this audience is going to.
That's great. Great to hear.
Absolutely.
And I know you touched upon the social media platforms where each of the different cohorts are most active, but tell me, what's the best way to market specifically to these groups? Is it just where they are? Give us some more insight there.
So as far as marketing goes, we have a few different channels that we activate with them. And one that I will actually in particular identify with are influencers. So we're active on, you know, social media, all of those channels. But one thing that we've noticed with this group is there's a trust factor when it comes to specific influencers. And I don't mean big, large actors, actresses type of influencers. I'm talking about social influencers. And what we've done is there's an ambassador program where we have put into place where, you know, we're able to have these conversations with these group members. And they are ones that they're pushing out the messaging of traveling with Contiki, and it's this influencer campaign that we've put together and has been extremely successful. So that's one area where we have, you know, been marketing. Also, email marketing is also a great touch point because you're inspiring them, and then when they're ready to book, that's when they go into our trade partners, and then they do the booking. So it's really kind of just being in most of the areas, but it's all about the content that you're pushing out and letting them feel connected and letting them know what they're going to be doing when they go on these trips. So that's really an area there. Ian, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add here.
No, that's perfect. And the only thing that I was going to throw in, and it's more, I think, relevant to the first question, is it's just it is the connectivity that the consumers seek. It comes from that interaction with a person, not with, while they're getting their information from a device, it's not just looking up and Googling information. It is getting that from whether it be an influencer or from a travel agent. It's that connection even before they go on trip, and just feeling that and having that expertise to easily and seamlessly guide them to what they're looking for.
Absolutely. Now, we touched upon it before. Pinterest. Talk to us about Pinterest. A lot of people have been asking, are any of these people on Pinterest anymore? Is that a lost social form?
It's actually not. I think it's just one that we forget about. I think when we think of Pinterest, we think of me, which is a mom in her 40s, and she's, excited. She wants to look up some things on how to do crafts with kids, or, just things that are interesting for you. And we actually forget that Pinterest is an area for inspiration as well, for travel inspiration. So one of our strategies in going into Pinterest is really kind of having it be more of our blog related content. So it's what's trending. What are some of the top things to do in 24 hours in Portugal, right? So if you're writing some type of content in regards to that and you're leading them to your blog articles, then that is inspirational. And those are things that they're going to be looking for. What's the coolest outfit that you should wear and pack? What's the one item you should pack when you're going overseas? That type of content is what's engaging on Pinterest, because those are the type of things that that audience is looking at. And actually on Pinterest, we are starting to see a little bit of a skewing a little bit younger audience as well, because again, it is there for that inspiration. So that's been a strategy that we are moving towards in 2021 in regards to Pinterest, and kind of just testing the waters a little bit. But we'll have our blog 6.2 be a big factor in regards to that one.
That's so interesting. And yeah, that I feel like a lot of people think of Pinterest as just like pretty images, but it is a link driver, it's linking to other pages. So that's so interesting about the blog posts. Also had questions about sustainable travel. How important is sustainable, and we talked about in other segments, regenerative travel to this segment of people? Do they care?
Oh, it's absolutely huge.
Huge.
I think it's absolutely one of the most important things that they're looking for, and I know Rita touched on it, that it's not only in the companies they buy from and the companies they support, but it's what they are doing themselves, and what those opportunities present themselves. And I know for us, one of the biggest initiatives that we've pushed forward in 22 is really having one of those experiences on every single one of our trips. And we're not there yet, but we're working very diligently, because it is so important to the market, to make sure they have that opportunity well on trip and destination to give back to every place and community that we visit.
Love that. That's good to hear. So I had a pretty specific question from someone that was saying that they already have a Contiki login where they can book and have access to your marketing materials. Do you guys have any plans to create a co-branded website where they could direct clients to see Contiki packages deals, but still have their company info there? Or talk us through that.
What we usually do with our agent partners, if there's a craving for any of our content and our materials, what we could do is we can, add their particular logo onto some of our content as well. So it is co-branded. So say videos, for instance, or any imagery and things like that, we've definitely been able to provide that from a marketing perspective. As far as a website goes, I don't know specifically, Ian, if there's anything in conjunction with that particularly. I know that there's a couple of offerings for some of our preferred partners, but I don't know if there's anything specific regarding that one. But as far as any type of content, just send that through, let us know what you're looking for, and we're happy to co-op with you.
Love that.
Absolutely. And on a booking engine, I'll just add on there, just on a booking standpoint, it really just depends on how the person who's asking the question, how they're interacting and how they're looking to book, and what is going to be, kind of the best, what is going to be most advantageous for them. So if it's an affiliate type program where it is a link that, they're just sharing the link out and the bookings are tracked as a typical affiliate program, there are ways that we can look at that. But it really is case by case, because it's what's going to work for that agent and agency and for the customer they're trying to reach.
Of course, absolutely. So I have a few more that were submitted separately that I want to talk through because we still have a few more minutes, and then I want to leave room for that story. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to relate to this. How do we engage this generation with social media if we've never done it before? So if this is new territory, how do we get our feet wet?
That's a great question. I would say it depends on how you're trying to engage with them. Are you trying to inspire them? Are you trying to let them know that you're available there if they need any, travel advice, if they want to book? So I would say take a step back first, look at the channels, identify what that channel is really good at, right? So if we're looking at Instagram, it's a lot of inspiration, photography, kind of a storyline, if you will. And if that's the channel you want to be on, then you're going to need to somehow build that database, right? To get your guys to follow you. So sometimes what we end up doing too, from a brand perspective, is you might need to create some kind of a contest or a social gathering or what have you, and get them excited to enter and go be with you so you can build that database. And then you can continuously start to advertise or market to them. So that's one area to get started. But I would say take a step back first and identify what are you trying to do on that channel, and what are you trying to get it to do from that perspective. And then your strategy will go align in regards to that one.
Excellent. That's really great advice. And is there a platform you recommend starting with? Like I know you mentioned Instagram. Is that the base one to start with for this market?
I would think so. I would say Instagram, because it's not too difficult from an Instagram perspective. There's not too many tinkering things on Instagram. You've got Insta stories and you've got Instagram, posts. That might be one to kick off with. It again depends. Are you trying to reach Gen Z or Gen Y, right? So that's kind of the question, and that's why I was saying, depending on which channel you're looking for, what are you trying to do with that channel? So I would say if it is that you're trying to target both, then I would say Instagram. If you're maybe trying to target more of the millennials, maybe try to be active more on Facebook. That might be one to go off of initially. But again, it's all about putting that strategy together and identifying what it is you're trying to do on that channel.
Awesome. One more question and I'll leave you guys the floor one last time. Are you guys getting bookings right now? And if so, where is this happening now?
We're starting to see a little bit of an uplift, to be quite frank. We are seeing some interest in Costa Rica. We're seeing some interest still in Europe, for 2021. And we, like I said, we had been seeing some interest in Africa, not any bookings specifically. And I think we had an Asia booking this week. So trickling in here and there, we're definitely hopeful that with the vaccine news, which is a big positive momentum for our industry, that we'll start seeing some more engagement coming up here shortly.
Excellent. Happy to hear that.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I will add on to that. Just because it is exciting as we're seeing activity that even some of our student groups have begun to confirm and even travel for summer of 2021. Students are paying their deposits, they're putting payments in, they're ready to go, which is just always exciting and encouraging to see.
Love that. All right, I'll let you end with a little bit of a story and then we're off. This hour went by so fast.
I guess I did set it up for that. I was hoping there would be lots of Q&A, but I will happily come back to the story. So I've got to give a little background to this. So I'm a fairly large person, 6'4", pretty stout guy, a lot of chicken fried steaks, living in Texas for a while. But a number of years ago, many years ago, I was traveling in New Zealand. One of the things I most wanted to do was go skydiving. We went to the skydiving place where you can tandem skydive, and we step in, and some of the folks I'm traveling with, you get on a scale and you get your suit and go on. And I got on the scale, and the guy kind of looks at me and he goes, well, you can skydive, but we wouldn't recommend it. Well, if you wouldn't recommend, why? I said, well, with the combined weight of the jump master and yourself, you could break your femurs. All right, I'm going to pass. I'm never going to go skydiving. That ranks up there as one of the things that I still want to do in life, and I'm going to go and learn how to solo skydive so I can skydive. But fast forward, I'm on a Contiki trip, and I'm on a group. It was an amazing group, and we're in the Alps, and we have an opportunity to go paragliding, and everybody is signing up to paraglide, and I'm thinking parachuting, paragliding, very similar thing. I don't want to go through the heartache of getting all excited like I did for going skydiving and then suddenly not being able to because my femurs might break if we go paragliding. And the group, they were relentless. They were so positive and supportive. Said, just go, Ian, go, go, go. And just so much positive energy and encouragement from the group we were with. Of course, I had to go and sign up. And we were picked up at our accommodations by the crew that does the paragliding. There was a group of about 6 of us on this particular one. We'd been sending small groups out all day, and we get into the minivan and we go to the base of one of the ski lifts. And this is in summer, and the ski lifts are operating to get to the top of the mountain. And get in the van and drive over to the ski lift, and we get out, and I open the door, and before my foot had even touched the ground, the biggest guy standing there holding the paragliding stuff, I mean, he's my size, he just points right at me and says, "You're with me." Perfect. All right, well, I guess there isn't an issue with paragliding. We're not going to snap femurs. So we take the gondola ride up to the very top of the mountain we were going to jump from. And for those of you who have never paraglided, I highly recommend it. For those of you who have, you'll relate to the experience, but you get all strapped in, you get the paragliding pilots behind you, and the parachute fills with air, and you just start. Well, they say you're going to start running off the edge of the mountain. It really only equates to about 2 steps before suddenly you're up in the air, and they're catching the thermals, and you're floating through the sky, and you rise up above the Alps, and you can see into Germany and into Italy, and there off in the distance are the mountains of Switzerland, and it is absolutely incredible. Well, as we're flying, my pilot asks, I guess it's a fairly consistent question, do you like roller coasters? I said, of course, I love roller coasters. So he starts doing some little corkscrews and starts swinging us back and forth, kind of like a pendulum. I said, you doing okay? Was that fun? And I'm giddy like a kid on Christmas morning. I said, yes, that's wonderful. Let's do more. He goes, okay. So we go a little bit faster corkscrews, and we do a little bit faster of pendulums. And he says, oh, you still doing good? You loving it? And I don't even think I can speak at this point. I'm just so happy. I think I'm just saying, yes, this is great, with the goofiest grin ever. And he says, all right, well, there's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to try, but I've never been able to, but I think we can do it. So, but I'm going to need you to hold the camera. So he has a GoPro on a little boomstick that's filming it. So I'm going to need you to hold the camera, and you're going to have to cross your legs, bring your legs up so your legs aren't kind of dangling down. I was like, okay, I can do all that. And we get all situated, and he goes, okay, are you ready? I said, yes, I'm ready. And he rocks our paraglider up, so we're pointing straight at the ground. So we are going as fast as we can, straight down to the valley at the bottom of the mountain we jumped off of. And all of a sudden, we swing out one way and then swing back the other way and go completely upside down, a full circle before coming back. And I couldn't even speak at this point. I was just so giddy to have done a complete somersault on a paraglider. We land and we get unstrapped, and I'll never forget this. I turn around, and this giant Austrian gives me the biggest bear hug. And he says, thank you so much. I've been wanting to do that my entire life, but you have to have enough weight at the end of the paraglider to flip it all the way around. And I've never had an opportunity. And thank you so much. Had I not had that group with me, I would have never been there. So one of the coolest things I've ever done in my entire life, I chalk up completely to the Contiki group I was traveling with and their encouragement. And one of the coolest things that pilot has ever done, I chalk up to that Contiki group. And it was very cool. About 6 months later, I was fortunate to be back in Austria, and had specifically reached out, and the pilot and I were going to go. We were going to go flying again, but alas, it was December and the snow came in, so we went skiing instead.
Oh
But
my
that
goodness.
is one of my great Contiki experiences and the power of that group.
I love that. Well, so we went over a few minutes of our session. If you guys do have final appointments at 5 Central Time, please go to those appointments. I did have 2 questions pop through. I want to kind of combine them if I can. Someone asked, can you customize your itineraries beyond add-on activities or pre-post nights? Is there a way to kind of make that a little bit more tailored?
For individuals or for groups or both?
Maybe both. I would say both.
Yeah, so for any of our trips, so anybody who's traveling, there's going to be a selection of just kind of included activities, so things that everybody can do, or will have the option to do. And then there'll be in any given city, for example, the paragliding. If you want to go paragliding, you can. If you want to go mountain bike riding, you can. So in every destination, there'll be an included activity as well as some optionals. But it's up to each and every traveler of what they want to do. If they arrive in a city, if they get into Rome and all they want to do is sit and find a coffee shop away from the tourist area and just watch the world go by, they can certainly do that. And same when we're talking pre or post trip, if we want to add pre-nights, post-nights, give somebody an opportunity to spend more time in their arrival city or their departure city, we 100% can do that. And then when we're talking groups, then we even have even more options on what we include, what we leave as optionals. And if we're talking a customized group, we can even tweak itineraries to meet that group's needs. So, it does. Flexibility is important. That ability to have that flexibility on trip, to have that free time, and to be able to do, for each traveler to be able to do what they want during that time is huge. I will say, oftentimes after about 2 or 3 days into the trip, when everybody's really coming together, everybody ends up doing a lot of the same things because you just want to be part of that new community that you've forged.
Of course, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, your insights, your awesome storytelling. We had such a good time chatting with you. I think people have to get to their meetings, and I just want to thank you. That was awesome. Really enjoyed it. So appreciate you both, and enjoy the rest of your day, evening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.